Welcome, everybody. Fusion Fantasy Football. I'm your host, Josh, and we're doing a mock draft. We're going to be talking about high ground draft strategy, which had a podcast about a few episodes ago, episode 130, I think. And I'm going to have an article coming out this weekend about it. We've also got the draft assistant going live on the Singularity this weekend. Lots of fun things that have to do with drafting because it's draft season. So, we want to get right into this mock. People are waiting. Want to say a quick hello to my guests here. We've got Alex
Hello.
and Richard, both Toilets to Tiles guys. So maybe familiar. Hopefully they are. They should be if they're not. Okay, we are going to start this draft off. I am drafting on the 11th position. Alex, you are 4, and you guys are next to each other. That's going to be really nice. All right. And he's locked in. Good. Our first guy is ready. So, really quick high ground draft strategy, guys. If you're not familiar, it's basically my attempt to take the strengths from all of these other draft strategies. You've got 0 running back, 0 wide receiver, late round quarterback. In a sense, is a backwards version of it, right? Same as late round tight end, but you also have elite tight end. Yeah, I mean, all of these different strategies, right? The thing is, they all share some similarities, as strange as that may sound, because the idea is when you pick one position or even two to be really good at, really strong at, and you're willing to fade one position, by the time everything's said and done, you actually end up with a stronger team. And this is made primarily to work best in a league where you have waivers and trades after. It works even better in dynasties. But this today is just a mock that's going to turn into a best. Well, we're going to see it's even going to work for this. Just like, everyone's probably most familiar with 0 running back, right? You grab all these guys late in the draft and they compensate, and you're able to make up for that weakness, and your strengths that you gained along the way are a net positive compared to the weakness. So that's the basic idea about it. There's a lot more details, nuance. It's not a rigid rule like, don't draft any one of this before 5. Literally, you can draft 0 running back, you can draft 0 wide receiver, you can do any of those, and they're all high ground. So that was the quick intro. You guys went Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I like both of those. So I'm here at the 11th, coming up on my pick. I'm gonna come back to you guys and your thoughts as we're going back towards your picks.
Gotcha.
When we're doing high ground, when I'm doing high ground, it doesn't matter whether you're at the beginning or the end. I mean, it is very nice to be able to react using the high ground strategy because you can see where, in the article it's coming out, I compare it to like hills, right? Because you want to, take a hill, take a high ground. Well, we got 4 hills here: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. And I want to see where everyone is running to first. And I want to take the one that there's least people at. So, and also you want to scout it and see, which one's just best. Maybe this format sucks for tight end. And even if everyone's abandoning tight end, I don't want it. So everyone's treating this as a pretty classic super flex quarterbacks. So the easiest thing for me to do here is going to be to fade quarterback. That's pretty easy. It also means that there's running back value slipping to me. We also have no wide receivers. Just because I start on one here in the first round doesn't mean I have to keep taking that one. And we see that in the popularity now of hero or anchor running back or wide receiver, where I'm going to take one here and then I can flip and make whatever I take from here on out my strength. But I have that strength with that first piece too. I'm looking at this. And so something I talk about in my other articles I do every year for draft is setting yourself up for better choices in the next rounds. So I'm not going to take a quarterback here because it's going to pigeonhole myself into wide receiver, running back. I'm going to go with a running back here. It's going to free up my choices going forward. I'm going to go Alvin Kamara. Seems pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, that's great.
I've been talking a lot. I know because we rushed into it, guys. So sorry. We've been rushing here, trying to get this thing folded on time. Plenty of time for you to talk in just a second, though. I want to hear your thoughts, your reactions. Pinto's on the turn here, thinking. So in the meantime, I've got the ability here. I can go. There's a decent chance he's going to leave me a number one wide receiver, and I can still grab a top quarterback depending on, how you feel about that. The classic top 6 and 7 are gone. So now you have to start deciding, is Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts is the reach here. So that being said, I'm probably not going to, because think of it this way. The other thing about high ground is making everyone else pay, creating scarcity. There's 7 teams now, including you two, who have quarterback and don't have a running back. I'm going to make you guys pay for that decision. Also, Saquon Barkley is there. So Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley. This is like higher ground heaven here. I love it because I'm just taking, people think about opportunity cost as being what you're giving up by making a choice. But you also have to remember there's another part to the equation there, which is you're removing a choice from your opponents too. So there's a positive. So Alex, you're the first one coming up. I want to hear your voice, not mine.
All right. Yeah. So there's a lot of running backs coming off the board, and I'm going to try this high ground method with you. I listened to the podcast this afternoon, and it seems to be something that I normally do when I'm in a draft. I'm big on the draft board. I try to read the draft board and how it's going, and that's how I'll draft. Like I don't ever have a solid idea of what I'm going to do going in. I kind of let the league and my league mates and the draft board speak to me. So so here we go. My pick is up now, and like I said, even more running backs off the board. So using that high ground mentality, I have a top quarterback right now. It is Superflex, so I could be looking at a quarterback to try to soak even more of that up and cement that advantage I would have. But I think I'm gonna go wide receiver here and start creating that scarcity of those defining those difference makers at the top of the position. So I'm gonna take Tyreek Hill.
You had me completely bought into this quarterback thing. I was like, yes, all in, and then you flipped it on me. But yes, second wide receiver off, and a lot of people's wide receiver won, so you can't hit it. What are you thinking, Richard?
Well, I think based off of what you were saying, it really, like for you, for an example, is the fact that you have the whole first of 10 picks to kind of determine the route you're going to go and stuff like that. So that really factors into a big situation on how you're going to go. Me, I get what you're saying as far as, and it's a perfect example of what you're talking about. If you lead with running back starting out and everything, you are going to kind of miss out on those stud receivers and maybe even QBs and everything, especially in a super flex league. But I'm going to do your situation and everything. I'm going to kind of go the same route as Alex because of all the running backs that have been taken off the board. And it helps me at an advantage where I'm picking at the third. I get to jump right back around. And that kind of really sets the pace for me.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Even though I was talking about running backs for me at the end of the round, I set myself up to have a good choice. By taking quarterback, you set yourself up for a good choice here too. So it really depends on where you are on the draft board going in. And so that's exactly what I was talking about. Even if you're at the beginning, you can go into it and say, this is what I want to do. And Richard, you went after AJ Brown. I love that.
Yep. Yeah. So here's what I was hoping was going to happen, that everybody, because of the running back scarcity, on the top end of the running backs here, I was hoping some of the guys there in the turn would see that and then want to try to absorb, those low end or running back ones, high end running back twos, so that I could still go 2 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds here. And I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers and lock up my 2 stud quarterbacks and a number 1 wide receiver.
Nice. And we got one guy at the 2 position. They're going 3 quarterbacks. I'm not sure. I think he's a follower. I'm not sure if he's listened or familiar, but he's definitely going all in there. Maybe he's just doing 0 wide receiver. I don't know, but we don't have to give everything a fancy name. It's okay to just draft. And like I said, that's why I had this idea. I've been kind of doing this for a while. Well, I just love, I love digging in on something and making people pay, and it kind of just grew out of that. And then we have all this 0 wide receiver and everything just seemed to be even quarterback extreme. I didn't mention that one before. You have quarterback extreme versus late round quarterback. Obviously, that's a Superflex specific quarterback extreme. John Hogue, those guys. So, I mean, all of them are just a different high ground. They're a different hill. But I was wondering if we could. I was listening to some podcasts since I'm waiting there. I was listening to some podcasts, even these like. These high-end DFS best baller guys like chasing ship chasers and stuff. And half the podcast, they were talking about basically what I would call high ground, because they were talking about how they wanted to keep hitting those wide receivers, keep challenging the other teams to continue taking running back. I'm like, they're making them pay. They're challenging them. So I'm up here finally. A bunch of wide receivers went in the 3rd round here. I am really interested to see this. This is not a combination I often do, but I'm really intrigued by this possibility right here. Darren Waller slipped all the way to the end of the 3rd. Running back and tight end is not a typical like 2 high grounds you can take. This is really fascinating, actually. I don't think I've done this exact configuration before. We'll see how it goes.
Now, would you consider Kittle in that next spot if he falls to you?
Possibly. I mean, you still got to pick the right players. I mean, we can't, and I am a little wary of Kittle, but, and I didn't exactly set this league up as being like a tight end premium or anything either.
I didn't think you did. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, no, I didn't specify it. So, I think I'm gonna leave it alone at that, because he's a powerful piece either way. He's a strength either way. I'm creating scarcity either way just by doing that one pick. So I can go back to the running backs. I can go any other direction I want here. The thing with higher ground, you still got to stay flexible. You can all of a sudden in the 3rd, 4th round completely flip your high ground to something else if you find that everyone else has left it open for you. I'm still seeing people going after the quarterbacks. And at this point, I've got to take the guy that I think is being just given to me at this point. He should be way before this in a redraft. And so it's not the plan. It's not necessarily fits high ground. But if again, in my article, I kind of compare it to there's the 4 hills, but there's resources on each of those hills. And it doesn't make sense to try and go to each hill and just get like one big chunk right away, because by the time you get there, everyone's taken the big chunks. But like you're better off staying on the one and getting as much as you can before anyone else gets there. But at the same time, if you see over on the other hill, Tom Brady's still just sitting there, I'm gonna take him. So, yeah, we're gonna let that go. And kudos to everyone in the league. Real quick, not a single auto or timeout or anything yet. That's actually really impressive. If you've done these like pre-scheduled, hey, we're gonna start at 10 o'clock. Well, by then somebody's fallen asleep on the couch or something.
Yeah.
Guys, you should have said something. This whole time we were talking.
Oh.
The board wasn't up. My bad, list watch. See, this is why I need somebody to help me out here. I'm looking at my other screen where I can see the board, and that's the problem.
That's
well,
what
that's,
you can do.
That's exactly what I was doing.
All right, so we were talking about the players at least, but you can see what I'm talking about now, viewers. Replays on. You got the second guy going to 3 running backs. Richard's there in the 3rd. He went to Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, AJ Brown. That is pretty killer. And then Alex, you got Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, and Aaron Rodgers. And I'm down here at the end. They let me get Kamara and Barkley, so I went for it. And somehow Waller slipped, even in a non-tight end premium. I'm definitely looking for Waller in the third as a value. Just the security and the elite upside he provides there is worth it at a discount compared to like Kelsey. And then I went Brady just because, I mean, I'm seeing another like 40 touchdown season. I mean, geez, look at what they did when they had AB going after the bye week last year. He's a top quarterback in my projections. If you guys pull up the singularity, you're going to be surprised how high he is.
Now, normally I guess it really depends. I mean, Superflex changes a lot of things. Like, I know when I've been in some Superflex leagues and I draft at one, I always start out with even with it being Superflex, typical Patrick Mahomes is going to go at one, but I always tend to go Christian McCaffrey. And if I go with Christian McCaffrey, that's where I'm going to take the high ground on running back like he did at number 2 and everything. So that would be my take at one. I mean, I'm tending always to go running back and everything. But like I said, it just depends on how the board falls to you in the spots that you're at. And like I said, when I had Josh Allen and it bounced around to get me that receiver, I had to get that stack with Stephon Diggs, and it just worked out well with on the turn getting AJ Brown.
Yeah, that stack was really nice. I wasn't even specifically thinking about that. I was looking at Alex's and I was like, no, there's no stacks there. And then I got distraction and missed the Buffalo one. Tannehill's already gone though, so sorry, you can't have that one too.
I know. I was really hoping he would come back, and that would have worked out perfect. But yeah, that was going to happen in the Superflex. So I got to take my man here, Josh Jacobs, get running back.
I should have even thought about that you were coming up next, because I was going to try to, with this guy going all these running backs, I was kind of hoping he was going to go, receiver or quarterback, something else. But it looks like he may have taken him anyway. Because I decided to take Evans in that last turn there because I have Evans much higher than I have, the remaining running backs. And I was hoping Kittle would fall, but he didn't end up falling. So I had to quick reassess my situation. And having that another, top 12 wide receiver, I feel like I'm really standing out at those positions now instead of taking some junky running back, that I have a lot lower in my ranks. So let's see. Now what do I do? Well, no, I really don't like the running backs that are left. There's a couple that I would think about, but there's still so many good receivers here too. I wish Amari Cooper wasn't hurt. Otherwise I would take him, but I'm going to have to, oh no, here we go. I'm going to take and just start locking up those top wide receivers. Tyler Lockett, sorry.
Man, I made a tweet recently. It was just Tyler Lockett every single draft. That was it. It's such a value right now. But both Keenan and Lockett there are both values. Keenan, he always falls, it seems, but it seemed like this year people were back on him high again. So I'm really surprised to see him there at 5.3.
See, I've been having the opposite. I've been noticing him. I've got him late in a bunch of best balls too, like underdog best balls. He fallen into me into the 4th round here, or like late 3rd round.
That's what I'm seeing, but the sentiment and what I see on supposed ADPs is that he's a wide receiver 1 because of the Herbert hype. But then at the same time, it's not actually happening. I'm not sure what's going on there. People are too sharp. I don't know. Because I do think he might disappoint. I love him, but he might disappoint from that compared to the hype.
But you know what? That's the same thing everybody says every year. And if it's one thing he's proven every year, I mean, yeah, he went through those 2.5 years where he was injuries, but ever since then, he is Mr. Consistent. and a
career low.
target monster.
Yeah, and I understood why people were wary of him last year. I disagreed, but I understood why with the rookie quarterback that people did not think was going to be as good as he ended up being. So I understood all those reasons. I got to go after this guy because he has been eluding me in every single draft. He has been sniped the pick before, one or two picks before, multiple times throughout all the drafts I've been doing. Javonte Williams, I finally got a share, guys.
Man, too bad it's a mock.
Yeah, but we're gonna turn this thing into a best ball. Surprise.
Oh, nice. Okay, sweet. Then I am definitely loving my team.
Oh yeah, for sure. Then
so
I didn't realize we were gonna.
Yeah, this is the point where I start looking at, okay, is there any wide receiver values? If Lockett had fallen to me there, even on the last pick, Amari Cooper, even those guys. But with the guys that went that did, I mean, I'm gonna have to reach for like a Thielen or Galladay. And I'm not saying that those are necessarily reaches, but at the same time, I'm wondering if this is where I'm going to be happy grabbing another quarterback and ending up with two just as good as everyone else has, and I took them rounds later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Kirk Cousins here. Brady and Cousins. That is just solid starters, and I paid 3-round discounts on both.
And on top of that, look at your 2 starting running backs. Heck, look at your top 3 running backs if Gordon gets hurt,
Yep.
I love Javonte Williams so bad. He's that one player that I'm willing to take in the 4th round if he's there and stuff. I should have took him over Josh Jacobs. If you want me to be honest with you, that's how high I am on him and stuff like that. I hope he's gonna be there, But you can't take him because of the fact that Melvin Gordon's there at that point,
I mean, he is my best bet for your classic rookie running back that's going to come on strong at the end of the season, help you win. Like, I know people want to say it's ETN, and that's possible. I think the committee there is going to be pretty consistent the whole season. It's not going to be a situation where someone's going to take over all the work, whereas there is a window there for Javonte to take it over as the next guy going forward for the Broncos. Mike Davis is another nice kind of option there. Just went. There's really not much. Did they sign Deontay Foreman? I know they had him in. They've got Quadre Allison, who I'd been kind of talking about as a really sneaky pickup, just because he's probably the second guy. I love Javian Hawkins, the rookie, but still he's a rookie undrafted. So I figured Allison was going to be the second guy up, and so far in camp reports he is. But that's still a big drop. That's still a big drop from Mike Davis to the next guy. So
it is.
We'll see. Jamar Chase went after that. I don't know. Chase or Higgins? Who you take first?
Me personally, I'm taking Chase due to the fact that he's going to be playing with Burrows and they have that chemistry. And I just have to believe he's going to be looking for him and everything based off of playing with him in the past.
But he got T Higgins got time with him last year too.
I agree with that. I agree with you 100% and stuff like that. But I honestly believe that Tyler Boyd is the one that everybody's sleeping on, and that T Higgins is going to be the one that falters with having Tyler Boyd there and Jamar Chase there.
Were we on the draft night with Toilets and Titles together?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my immediate reaction when T Higgins, when Jamar Chase was the pick, was exactly that I think Boyd's role is safe. Now,
yep.
That doesn't mean I'm reaching for Boyd here. I think he does have a capped ceiling, but I think he's a very good floor play. His role isn't changing. It's not expanding, but I don't think it's going away either. And Higgins, if Jamar Chase is just a monster, Higgins is the one that is going to lose out. But then you just have to decide whether or not you think Chase is going to be a monster.
I mean, you got to look at it too, though. I mean, you're getting Boyd as the 3rd receiver being drafted out of these 3. and just the value in that, and him not losing that rule. I think the value's there for him to be the best player to pick up in drafts.
All right. So there's still a guy I really like. I mean, I think he's going to be the number one receiver in San Francisco. So I'm going to take him here and just add up those wide receivers, and then I'm just going to dig through the whatever's left in running back for the next couple rounds probably, and see what I can piece together here for this. But I think there's still plenty of room for what I need left for this team.
Yeah, I like that Ayuk pick. Even if, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be that much better than Debo, but I think they're just both going to be good. So we'll see how long. It'll be interesting to see how long it takes for Debo to go.
I think Debo's going to be the number one receiver there. And I know everybody's high on Ayuk and everything. And my reasoning is, look, Ayuk looked great when Kittle and Debo was out. You know, when you get back into the season, and if they're both fully healthy, does he still get the same amount of targets that he would have gotten with Debo and Kittle not being there?
Yeah, and that I was just trying to say that Debo and Ayuk both belong right around here. So I have no problem with it either way. Thielen went. I've seen him slipping even farther than this, but that's a good spot for him. Finally, that number 2 guy, fantastic, went with something other than a running back here last couple of rounds, and then Hawkinson turning around. J. Rob went on the turn, so that's a little sad, but I like grabbing him. And
that I really think everybody's sleeping on is Beckham.
Interesting.
Yeah, not waking up from that coma.
Nope, me neither.
I've been in that coma for 4 years.
Yeah. And I think actually I'm going to skip on running backs still, and grab a tight end I really like for this season and snatch him up, Mark Andrews. And I can stack him with Lamar Jackson, and I think that's great value in the 7th round there. So I couldn't really pass him up because the other running backs that are left I think Andrews is going to be more valuable than they will be. So I'll still figure it out later.
Yeah, that's beautiful. There's been a lot of Andrews hate going around lately.
Yeah, I don't get it.
I understand the sentiment because, I mean, for me, I don't think the Raven wide receivers have really been good at all for seasons, for the entire time Lamar Jackson's been there, basically. So on one hand, you say, well, that's left it open for Mark Andrews. And now if Bateman is what we hope he is that going to hurt him because there's a real wide receiver in there now? But I don't think it's going to hurt him to this extent that he's going to do less than what he's done. I think he's going to get pretty much exactly what he's gotten. And anything that Bateman does is going to, he's going to take it out of the profit. He's going to take it out of how he helps this offense expand and grow. That's where he's going to get his numbers. He's going to take it from the other guys, Brown. But yeah, I love that stack too. That worked out beautifully for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that those tight ends were still hanging around there. When I got to my 6th pick, and I was like, I think at least one of them should slip through, and because I would have been fine with either of them. But I like the Andrew stack with Jackson.
Yeah, I'm not a big middle round tight end guy at all. I mean, if I can get a elite guy for value like I just did with Waller in the end of the 3rd, I will. Otherwise, I'm waiting and I'm diving deep into double digits. But like I said, Andrews there in the 7th. When you have Lamar, that's you got to be able to make exceptions. And I'm going to make one here. I was already talking about it, Debo. I mean, I'm going to go with my first wide receiver here. Wide receiver 1 for there. Yeah. So with the thinking high ground, I may have made a mistake going with Cousins. I'm not sure if that was really staying true. We're seeing a lot of other guys still there. I could have taken upside with some other quarterbacks later who are still even floating around that I'm looking at now, and I'm like, well, they're not that bad. I do think Cousins is a good tier above anybody who was still around, so I'm gonna still stand by my choice. But if I had to change anything, it's probably where I would go. I was hoping this guy would come back to me, and I figured he might due to generally being disliked. I see Aggie Cap on the end there. He's sticking with those quarterbacks, stacking up, getting it deep. Somebody's got to make the guy at number 2 spot pay, right?
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I'm gonna go with the guy that I think is actually going to be the leading. Going to be very close to leading those Steelers wide receivers in points, at least. Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't think he's. I've been high and then very low, and now I'm going to be in the middle. I just think he's not as good or as bad as everyone has gone, vacillating back and forth between. I'm not sure where everyone's at now. Obviously, he's here in the 8th round, so it's low, but he's after Claypool and Deontay. There was Deontay in the 6th, Claypool in the 7th, and I got Juju in the 8th. And I think that's where how that's gonna work out for me. Is I'm just gonna take the last one.
I think that's how they've been. All three. That's how they've been getting drafted in every format that I've been in. Everything. Juju's always the last one to go, and just like with you, what you're saying, Josh, is I think that's value getting them there. As the third receiver out of the being drafted.
He seemed to be, as far as wide receiver goes, he's actually more of the red zone target once they actually get in the red zone. So he doesn't have the big play touchdowns like Claypool's might still have. And hey, Big Ben his arm is supposedly feeling good, but he's still going to get touchdowns, and he's going to get, I think, still solid volume now that he can really play that slot role now that the other talent has emerged on the outside. So yeah, I think he's just going to be a solid player. I know we were talking about Boyd. It's kind of a similar situation there, I think. One thing we didn't talk about with Boyd that I was curious about, and Burrow got taken all the way back in the 4th, is he's really been reports about him being pretty shaky. Joe Burrow, kind of seeing shadow. I don't know what the term is, but seeing ghosts when he's in the pocket. Pulling up his leg when no one's gonna hit him because of training camp, first of all, but also they weren't even that close. So we'll see. And he even admitted, I think, in an interview saying that it's definitely there, that little bit of hesitancy. We'll see. Confidence seemed to be his thing, even in college. So maybe this is just a narrative. I don't know. It's not very good analysis, but it worries me with a guy who his superpower is just his brazen confidence when that guy is shaken. Now the real talent has to kick in, and how much of it was real talent? Obviously it's talented, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I'll talk over you guys' picks. Alex, you went with David Johnson, your first running back.
Mm-hmm. Well, here in the 8th round, I'm still getting a starting running back. He's not my favorite running back, but he should get some, decent volume. That running back room's a mess. And he's going to most likely be the pass catcher out of the backfield. So I like those receptions. So I thought about taking a quarterback to try to really dig it in to team 2 there. I was going to take Big Ben. But I decided, since everyone else was taking the quarterbacks there, I figured that was enough, pay so I could jump in and grab a running back that I like. And now I'm probably going to go with another running back here that I like, who is another starter. And I don't think he's going to split too much time, so that'll that'll be good for my heavy wide receiver roster here. Not the flashiest guy, and he's probably not going to catch passes like David Johnson, but I think he's going to get a good amount of the work in New England. So I'm going to take Damian Harris.
I love that pick. I think he should have gone way before Chase Edmonds. And we kind of have a blank spot for running back since James Robinson. But hey, Richard, we're letting you have all your guys. What are we doing here?
I know, man.
I wasn't taking Carr. I wasn't doing that.
He is a solid QB to have late in the draft like this in a Superflex league.
Yeah.
I take him every single time this late. Unless Josh is drafting in front of me.
The guy I really wanted was Trey Lance, and he got sniped right before me. So I was going to take that high upside QB3 since I already have two top 5 quarterbacks. So.
And this is just your regular PPR. I kind of sniped Richard in another league that's kind of like Scott Fish Bowl scoring, where the completions and incompletions get you, and that's where Carr really shines. So I went after him way earlier in that draft than in the 8th here. But I do think he probably should have gone ahead of a few of these guys. But, that said, Roethlisberger, Fitzpatrick, it's hard to say any of these guys should go over the other.
It is. Although Derek Carr should have went over like 10 of these QBs already.
Oh, there goes Michael Thomas.
Okay. I'm more and more concerned about him pulling a Galladay, where he just kind of doesn't want to play or wants a contract or wants out or something like that. Just his hesitancy to get the surgery, to even respond, supposedly even respond to contact from the team. It's a little concerning.
Yeah, I saw that.
Someone I was high on. He's been someone I was been high on, but I wasn't anticipating that side of it. I thought that he was going to be looking forward to like making Jameis Winston look good and having him thrown to him.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. I was real high on him all off season, just because everybody else was really down on him. So I was snatching him up in all kinds of drafts, dynasty startups, best ball, pretty late, like, 4th round. I got him in the 5th round one time. And like, that's crazy for the, wide receiver that was number 1 overall, 2 years ago?
I'm going to maybe a slight reach here, but I want to make sure I get this guy. And this is a stack I really like. And with a huge upside, and going Antonio Brown.
Nice.
I got Brady up there. And I'm looking at the wide receivers on the board, and I am not regretting fading the wide receivers. I know that none of them that I'm looking at are the super top tier, but I'm seeing a lot of names with good upside. It's going to put up points, and I'm still very happy with it. So we'll see how his looks. We got Pinto taken, Tunyon and Higbee back to back, finally going tight end. Kind of rounding out his team a little bit, but he doesn't have much for wide receiver. He's even worse off than I am. So now I've got a couple choices, but again, I think I'm going to go after somebody. Just want to double check. Yeah. I think this is going to be, this is my chance. This is kind of a little bit of risk, but if it hits, it's going to hit hard, I think. Robbie Anderson going here. He could be the wide receiver 1, or at least, 1B behind DJ. We saw at times last year that's how it turned out. And now he's back with Darnold, and I don't know how that's going to affect him. I mean, if Darnold's half decent and they have that rapport already, then it could turn out pretty good.
Yeah, I'm with you on Robbie. I've been all over him. And another guy that's going way later than he should. I had him last year, and it was pretty fantastic. I mean, at least the first half of the year. The second half of the year kind of trailed off, but I'm with you. I think he's going to make another big splash this season. Let's hope Darnold can actually throw the ball. That's my only concern. I don't know how I want Darnold to succeed, but I don't know how I feel about him because I don't know if he actually has it in him. But
Yeah, so there goes Brandon Cooks. He was another one who was kind of my short list. But I'm going through the wide receivers and I'm just queuing up all kinds of these guys that I wouldn't mind have taken, you know, with a pick in this round, and they're going to be spread out across the next 3 rounds. When you get to this part of the draft, it's just whoever you want. Zach Wilson finally goes in a super flex in the 10th round. That's an interesting one. That could pan out. As much as I don't like Wilson at that price, it's hard to hate it, I guess.
he's going to start. He's a starting QB. And that's his QB3 too, so
Yeah. I am curious. We'll see how the guys feel about it. You can add rounds if you pause it, can't you?
I think so. Should just be able to add bench spots.
We're moving along pretty good. I'll see if people are interested.
Alex, what you thinking about on this next pick, man?
I'm not sure because I need some running backs, but if we're going to expand the draft, I might be able to wait on them a little bit longer. That's one of the main reasons why I started hitting them where I did, to get them into my lineup. But if we're going to expand it, regardless if we expand it, there's one guy left here that I'm okay with as my QB3. Some of the other guys, you timeshares and not sure where it's going to pan out, but this guy's he's gonna play, and hopefully he does something. So I'm gonna take Jared Goff.
Yeah, I just put him in the queue. I mean, he's down at the bottom, but he was just somebody I wanted to not forget about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a starting quarterback.
Exactly. Zach Moss.
Richard, we didn't talk much about your late round running backs here. Yeah, I mean, the Jacobs Hunt one is one I've often ended up with when fading. But I also like your Carter and Moss here. It's hard to hate it.
No, I mean, especially with me starting out with receivers and everything, I wanted to at least get one running back. That's why I went with Jacobs, not being biased or anything like that. But to me, he was the best one on the board at the time. But to come back and get Kareem Hunt, and still, to me, if everything pans out in 9 and 10, getting Michael Carter and Zach Moss should both be the starting running backs for their teams. I think you can't miss on that with the receivers I got.
Yep.
And then to wrap it around one more time, and this is the man I think you need to have in Houston, is Mr. Philip Lindsay.
Interesting.
A lot of upside.
Yep, a lot of upside, being behind in games and everything. He's going to be that receiver back.
I don't see that because he wasn't really a receiver in Denver, so I don't know what would make you think
he was decent. He didn't excel at it, and that was a problem with the Broncos. I mean, he's okay as a dump off, but he's not a David Johnson. At the same time, I've been grabbing him more in Dynasty as kind of a sneaky guy to be the young incumbent next year. And probably they're going to be drafting someone, but at the same time, at least he's got a clear path to some chance. And we're talking about nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. Or net. Both. I was going to say something about Ronald Jones. I'm a well-known Ronald Jones hater. But in the 9th round, like, I would have even considered him if I'd been in a 0 running back kind of situation. I do think that I don't want to say it. How did I say it before? I think with Gio being there, it's kind of clarified the roles a little bit. Fournette, I'm afraid, is going to end up the tweener. Like, he was getting time last year because he could catch a little bit better. But
Hmm.
if Gio takes that from him, and Ronald Jones is the more of the runner that has some burst, then that leaves Fournette with maybe goal line rushes. It seemed like he, in a couple of games there in the playoffs, he had a little more success at that than Ronald Jones did. But I mean, who's to say that's going to carry over into this next season? So I'm just afraid he's the tweener and he ends up the third guy.
Yeah, well, as my going zero running back through there, I think I prefer Ronald Jones out of anyone in that backfield, but they're very quick to get guys in the doghouse if they screw up. Bruce Arians isn't going to put up with it, so I think it's just I'm not a huge Fournette fan, but to maybe get the starting running back for Tampa Bay, I'll take the chance in the 11th round.
I think the benefit of drafting Leonard from that point, look, he's going to be used more towards the end of the season and going into the playoffs and everything, and that could be really where he helps you out the most. And so towards the end of the season, where they're going to be more on that ground focused game and stuff like that going into the end with the cold weather and everything. So I think that's a great buy at that point at where you're drafting him at.
Can anyone else see? Did it actually add the rounds?
I don't have any extra rounds.
I don't
Okay.
have.
You
I'm
have
gonna
to leave and
refresh.
come back in. Yep.
Yep, there we go.
We're gonna take a brief little pause here, and then resume. We're good. I'll tell the guys to refresh. I am so happy this guy came back to me. I didn't want to jinx it. This is my guy, Rashad Bateman. Actually, I had Elijah right after him, and Elijah Moore went right before. So I was hoping to at least get one of them. Got Bateman. Man, that's just like, if I have to add a signature take this offseason, it's this Bateman and Lamar are just going to crush. Not necessarily right away as a rookie, but I think, especially in Dynasty, going into next year, they're going to be a hot pairing.
Yeah,
Gus
I like that.
Edwards would have been like the running back I would have maybe considered over Lindsey and Fournette. He just went here.
I had him queued up. It was between them. It was between Gus and Fournette.
So going like high ground here. Thinking about it, just because you go high ground doesn't mean you have to just like take 6 or 7 of a guy. High ground doesn't mean it has to be high quality volume. It means that your starters need to be the best. And I think I still have that with Kamara and Barkley being like the best 2 running back starters, or close to it. But I might have to look at some running back here. How am I running out of time? I don't know. Okay. It was covering up I couldn't even see my timer. But I think I'm going to still stick with some upside here. Go with this guy getting some hype, and especially a best ball setting. If we turn this in, I like it.
No, that's a good pick. Great pick.
Okay. Thanks for telling everyone to refresh. I was going to do that, but I was in the middle of my picks too.
Yep, I got you.
Dalton goes, yeah, that's a floor play. Why not?
I think it looks like everybody's lining up pretty. Everybody got their 2 QBs. I mean, some went pretty heavy with the 4, so. But
Did
you're
more
picking
than
at
one?
straws now.
Yeah, well, often happens when I do like this with the high ground. Like I was just saying, sometimes I end up with more players at my weakness, and you see that sometimes with zero running back guys where they have just a ton of these dart throw running backs in the last, 6 rounds are just nothing but these throwaway running backs. So it's a similar comparison parallel with the wide receivers for me here. But probably should consider something else for running back just to have some depth in the last couple of rounds here. But I don't feel like I have to. I'm already kind of like invested on my guys hitting. So like if Kamar and Barkley don't hit and they're my high ground, like I'm already sunk. So it's kind of like, why buy insurance now? It's not gonna save me. Jimmy goes, you guys think that who starts week 1 for San Francisco?
Trey Lance.
Think so?
I hope so. It'll be a lot more exciting to watch him.
I'm sure it'll be exciting. I'm not sure that's a good thing. I just wonder if that's the way. If they do start him week 1, like, you're going to commit then, because you don't want to start him week 1 and then have him have some bad games and then pull him, because you still are a competitive team who have playoff aspirations, because the rest of your roster is built to win. So that's why I'm hesitant to think he's going to start week 1.
I think it's come to the point where we've had so many rookie QBs drafted in the past 3 years, and them starting week 1 hasn't really faltered anybody to a certain degree. I mean, we've had more success in these rookie QBs starting out in the past 2-3 years. That kind of goes on that track of them maybe doing that same thing.
So I'm up on my pick here, and there's one last running back that I think, again, is one of the better handcuffs to have, and I can take it away from Frito Bandito here, and I'm going to take Kenyon Drake. Another guy that if he happens to get, a lot of the work, he could be, do really well for my, lineup.
That's a good pick. I mean, I wouldn't have done it, but it's a great pick.
You don't handcuff your running backs?
No, I mean, is he really a handcuff? I mean, it's one of those Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb kind of things,
I think that's a great example. I don't actually think Drake's going to be used even to that extent. Obviously, he hadn't shown himself to be that much of a receiving back, to be really treated as a specialist in that department. He's capable, but not to the extent that I think that somehow becomes a James White or Tariq Cohen or even Kareem Hunt, who is definitely proficient in the receiving game.
Look back looking at last season, you had Booker there with Jacobs and stuff like that, and I mean even Rashard, but I mean Devontae Booker had some great games, even when Jacobs was playing.
Yeah, I don't actually think Kenyon Drake's going to take that much away from Jacobs. But in a build like this, I just want upside. Someone who, this late in a draft, I just want someone who might, get
I'm not saying it was a bad pick for you. It just would have been a bad pick for me based off the team that I have built,
No, I agree. And I'm not a handcuffer either. So I wasn't sure if you were. So I kind of wanted to sneak him out of there, but I'm surprised he dropped as far as he did.
Yeah, I think it made sense for both your teams to take him or to pass.
Cole Kmet finally got your tight end there, Rich.
Yeah, at this point, I got to pick a few up. So I feel like I already got my stud receivers at the top, and I filled in my running back depth on the back end. I got my QBs. If Mac Jones comes in for Cam during the season, I'm set there. So I got to start getting some tight ends there. And that's normally how I'm doing. If I'm just like Josh said, if I don't get Waller or Kelsey in the first 2-3 rounds, I'm not even touching tight ends until the very end. Just hope upside.
Yep. So I don't really know what I want to do here. There's a couple of receivers I like. I think they're more valuable at this point. So I'm going to take take Marvin Jones. I think he has a good year in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. I think that'll be his downfield guy. I'm not a big Shark fan, so
It's interesting. I think Shark is going to be the downfield guy, and Jones is going to be that Mr. Reliable for Lawrence this first season.
I'll take
Marvin
that
can do it
too.
all, yeah.
Yeah.
He can do it all.
He likes the end zone, though, too. So he's got a nose for it.
We'll see, I have a few players on my queue here. We'll see if any of them make it to me. I was a little surprised by Komet over a lot of the options that were there. You just like his touchdown upside, or what is it you like about Komet over some of the options? Even Trotman went.
I just like the way he ended last season. And, I mean, if you really go back and look at the end of the season, he started getting a lot more targets, especially in the end zone. And to me, he looked like a young Gronkowski. And what better to have? You know, I feel honestly that they're going to run more 12 personnel when Justin Fields gets in there. So if you have Graham and Komet in there, to me, I just think that's a great option to have, especially with a rookie QB.
I'm gonna grab. I'm gonna finally go back to running back here. I'm surprised he's still here in PPR, and I get to take a backup. Naheem Hines, kind of the taking somebody else's handcuff. Yeah, I am ecstatic about that pick here. I had him and Pollard kind of queued up since my last pick. Parker and Amon-Ra go back up. So I got my last pick here. I got to decide whether I want to go with the second tight end or, I mean, there's actually still quarterbacks technically available. We're not entirely sure how much any of them are going to start is the problem. I think Bridgewater is the last remaining name that has a chance here. I'm going to keep going. I think I am going to go with tight end. Looking at my wide receivers, I'm pretty confident in their upside. So we'll see. We'll see if I regret this or not. But I'm going to go with the upside of Jonnu Smith touchdown upside. I think there's other players I have ahead of him technically, but I just want those big games, basically, and he's good at that.
I thought you were going to take Austin Hooper.
Hooper's my guy. If I didn't have Waller, I would be going Hooper.
Yeah.
Probably last round or even before that. I would have gone somebody else instead of Mooney even. Like if I want that consistent guy, I still love Hooper. But this is specifically because I want those big touchdown games.
No, I've been adding him to my late round tight end repertoire. Just because of what you've said about him.
We're talking about Hooper?
Yeah, Hooper. Because you
Check
were
out
talking
his season, end of the season. Speaking of, like, we talked about how Komet ended his season. Look at how he ended the season when he was finally back healthy. He missed games in and out throughout the season. And you can say Odell Beckham was gone. You know, you can say that all you like, but I think that Baker Mayfield fell in love with him, just the same way that Matt Ryan fell in love with him. Third downs. Hey, you want a first down tight end target, Frankenstein? It's Hooper for cheap. Yeah. He's just Mr. Reliable. Everyone always dismisses him and says that he's not good, but I'm like, but he keeps earning targets. He keeps earning more and more increasing target share with his quarterbacks. There's got to be a reason why.
Josh, what division are you in the Frankenstein?
It's you and me, man. Frankenstein, the real OGs here.
I know, man. I know. You're over here dropping that Hooper dime.
So I like one running back that's left, and I think he would be a good addition with the 0 RB kind of build that I went with. But I also want another tight end. Make sure to help back him up. But nah. Oh, oops. I didn't realize I was timing out. That was my bad. So I guess I'm taking J.D. McKissick with my last pick here in the 14th. Hope Andrews does well.
Wait, who are you going to take?
Jared Cook.
Go ahead.
No, it's cool. It's cool. Just
It's end of the round. Who cares? I want it to look right. Here we go. We'll change it to Jared Cook.
boom.
Done.
Thanks, man.
All right. We want this
I
to
wasn't
look
gonna,
right.
wasn't gonna take them anyways, man. So that's the reason why I said go ahead. But I feel like I have to take a tight end because I just don't want to get a 0 that week that Komet's not playing. So I am gonna go with the other from New England.
Yeah, I didn't even.
It does kind of change it, and telling people we're going to change it into a best ball. It kind of messes with it, but that's all right. There it is. I like that OJ Howard one at the end too. If I had another round with the Brady one, I love let's see, in the Razzball best ball, I have the Brady, Evans, and OJ Howard double stack. The tight end, wide receiver, and quarterback. And I love that. Here I've got Brady and Antonio Brown. So I was kind of wondering about that, but only 14. Only 14. He needs to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
In a normal draft. So looking at these teams, did we do what we thought we wanted to do? I'm going to give some credit here to number 2 team there. Fantas Fanatic going 4 running backs, really putting on the pressure. Still getting McLaren and Thielen, Hawkinson. His weakness, his hill he gave up was those quarterbacks for sure. But Roethlisberger can be steady for him if he's healthy. Something I talk about at the end of the article that's coming about high ground is the thing about high ground is it's a draft approach, but it sets you up for the rest of your league, be it the season or in a dynasty, because first of all, it stopped you from reaching and losing value on picks. If nothing else, it stopped you from giving into the panic and reaching just because you felt like you had to have this position or whatever. It's meaningless in a trade league. It's meaningless in waivers. Definitely in dynasty, it's meaningless. You can change those things. You don't want to lose the value. So keep taking what's there. Don't reach. So it helps you in that respect. And it also gives you a clarity. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. Team 2 knows exactly where they need to blow all their fab money, when somebody gets hurt, the first big waiver run, they know where they need to spend all the money. It's on whoever's going to be the clear quarterback who's now starting wherever. It's Davis Mills if Tyrod's, lung goes out again. It's, whatever it is, what you're going to do. There's this crazy stat of win rate from last year where Jack Doyle has had a very high win rate as far as league teams that won, which makes no sense. The only way it makes sense is if you think about it and realize it's because teams that had him knew that they were bad at quarterback. At tight end. So they were probably getting the Tunyons and the Logan Thomases. And in the meantime, they gained value in other positions. They were stronger in other positions. And who knows? Maybe they drafted Waller and then Jack Doyle. I don't know. It was just really weird to see on the high win rates Jack Doyle because he did absolutely nothing. Yet how was he higher than other players? And all I can keep coming back to is because teams knew that they needed to pick up a tight end. But the guy who drafted Hawkinson or Fant, Goddard in the middle rounds, I don't want to spend up on Tunyon because I already have Hawkinson or Fant or, so you don't do it. And meanwhile, that guy ends up better. What do you think your team's guys?
Go ahead, Alan.
I like my team, especially for a best ball with those big, reliable wide receivers, and with the Superflex having 2 of my top 5 quarterbacks. I want to move Rodgers up in my ranks because when he performs and does, now the offense has been together for 3 years now, and they got back to him throwing touchdowns. That's what he does. So he's a top 2 quarterback in 4 5, a ridiculous number of seasons. So I love having that stack of quarterbacks, and even the running backs I got, the fact that I got 2 starters, in the 8th and 9th round, that's wonderful for the way my team was, filling out, and grabbing Andrews in there instead of a running back. But if this would have been like a normal dynasty or something, I definitely probably would have lumped on with quarterback instead of even touching the running backs, because in a league where I can trade and everything else, then I can, like you were saying, for redraft, it kind of skewed my high ground mentality, because I needed to fill some spots and make sure I have guys to go in my lineup, for week 1. But if it would have been some other type of league where I can trade out of that and, build for the future, and, with that mentality, I would have probably let the running backs go even a little longer. But for best ball, I'll take that.
Well, and I was thinking about it, even though we were talking about how your weakness you can go after in a regular league with trades and waivers. We're not going to have that in a best ball. But on the other hand, you have something in a best ball you don't have in those leagues either, where you get their big games. And so you can go after all these guys, and you just need one of them to do something to fill that other starter spot. So on the other hand, it still is working, because the best ball, the feature is helping mitigate that weakness, because it's giving you the best results, even from the late round guys.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Richard?
Yeah, so if you sit there, so take the best ball strategy out of this. Okay, just thinking, look, I look at my team and Alex and stuff like that. Okay, that's 2 teams that when an injury happens to a running back and stuff like that, we got. If I'm looking at, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are going to be throwing their fab at that first running back. So now you're kind of pigeonholed where you're competing against more people that are going to be throwing that fab, where, say, for example, the team number 2, he's not going to be in that situation. So he might not have to throw that much fab out there, but on the same token, he ain't going to have a whole bunch of competition trying to go after that fab. So this is a great, just something to look at when you're going in those situations. The more I sit there, I like my team very well. I love my receivers. And then on the back end, I did get some tight end, some running back that I wanted. But if I wasn't able to get those running backs and stuff like that, it would make me think my strategy where maybe next time I do go running back heavy. So it's kind of one of those situations where it kind of messes with your mind if I'm sitting there looking at the other people I got to compete with when these running backs start popping up that you're trying to throw your fab out.
Yeah, I kind of say that you want to come out of the draft with the best position group at one position.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure I did that. The whole Waller and Brady pick still being there for me kind of threw me. I did not expect Brady to be there, and Waller either. I probably, like I said, probably should have pushed my advantage and gone back to running back instead of Cousins or Debo. That Harris pick, Alex, that's going to bail you out so well. I should have been taking him or James Robinson or both of them back on my picks and really press that advantage before flipping over to the wide receivers as much as I did. But I feel like I still came out with pretty strong running backs, obviously starters. Darren Waller by himself is strong. So I'm like top 2 or 3 at both of those. But I'm not sure my weakness is as weak as it even should have been. You don't, and so I probably failed at my own high ground approach here, because I say coming out of it, you want to have that definite weakness, and you don't want a balanced team coming out of the draft, but that's not balanced from a sense of number of players. That's balanced as far as value. And so I still think that my wide receiver core, there's a lot of guys there and a lot of possible points, but it's still pretty weak as far as the upper talent. I think the only the only teams that have worse wide receiver cores as far as the higher end talent is the guy behind me on the turn, Aggie Kappa. That's Pinto over there. And maybe team one, but he's got Godwin and Julio. So he's got that higher end as well. So I think when all's said and done, I do have one of the worst wide receiver cores, but I gave myself a lot of opportunity for them to do something, especially in the format. So something to think about, something to learn from. When you get it, something to think about it when I get to that point where I took Cousins to really read the room and realize that everyone is cooling on quarterbacks and I probably can wait. I was just kind of excited about that tier because I have him not far behind, Stafford, Burrow, and Hurts. So I was kind of excited to have one more quarterback at that tier, but I probably would have been just fine with the Tua. Although looks like I wouldn't have gotten him, but Alex, you were trying to do kind of a high ground with those kind of thoughts. I know you already talked about your team some, but kind of thinking about the high ground. How do you feel that worked out for you?
I definitely think I have one of the best quarterback rooms, so I definitely have an advantage there. I guess the next closest that I see would be Russell Wilson and Ryan Tannehill, but I think Lamar and Aaron Rodgers is much stronger than that. And my wide receiver room is also really strong, so I think that's where those were definitely my two hills. Because I even, I really wanted Deontay Johnson, but Ayuk was still there, and I wanted to extend that, advantage a little further just to make sure I got, all the a lot of big games. And then, I think you did, you did it a little bit better, because you have a lot of upside wide receivers there at the end. Whereas my running backs, I kind of just got two starters and then picked up the scraps as we went on. So I feel like I'm, really weak there. Tight end, I'm kind of middle of the road, so it's not really one or the other. So, but I think my hills are very strong that I did decide to stand on. But I think I still have a decent chance, though. I think getting two starting running backs that late, I wasn't expecting that, kind of value. So I had to go in and grab it.
I think you definitely have, at least like you said, tied, if not the best quarterback room, and your wide receiver, your top end wide receivers, I think are the best.
Well, I don't know if Rich has Diggs and Brown. I didn't want to say the best because I think that's and with Keenan Allen, that's a pretty good stack there too.
Yeah,
so.
I guess I was thinking about your four as a whole. His top two are the nicest top two for sure. And then Keenan is very solid there still. So you're both very close. I was just kind of thinking about the top four. Same time, if Beckham pulls it out, then he's right there.
I don't think he's going to, though.
Richard, you got any closing thoughts? You want to defend Odell?
No, if I really wanted to die on a hill, I probably, based off the running backs I got in the late, I kind of probably would have pushed maybe not drafting Jacobs and going another receiver and stuff like that right there. If I really wanted to die on that receiver hill and stuff, because I was able. But like I said, looking back, who would have known that I would have got Carter and Moss at that point too? Because I would be happy with them if I was starting out, say Diggs, Brown, and say I went with Mike Evans right there instead of Jacobs. And then maybe on the flip end still get if I got Keenan Allen or maybe Josh Jacobs would have made it back to me. I know that. But
you could have gotten Godwin or Julio or McLaurin instead
and stuff like that. Correct. Jacobs. Okay, yeah, you're right. But I could have died on that hill if I really wanted to push it a little bit longer and stuff like that. But on this, I love my team. I ain't gonna lie, I really like it very much.
Yeah, I think it's good. You got that one big piece in Josh Allen, and then you were just kind of able to sit back and forget about quarterback for a long time. So that's one way of doing this. Like I said, you can swing by, one hill on your way and grab one big piece and then and then continue on to where it is you really wanted to go, which is the wide receivers. That's fine too. And it also gives you a chance to react to the room because you were at the front, so you didn't get to do that like we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going on an hour 15. I appreciate you stopping in. Hope you had fun. Hope everyone is learning something. Like I said, this high ground thing, it's more of a philosophy. It's an approach. I call it an approach. It's not even hardly a strategy because it's not very specific. It's flexible. It's just more of a way of thinking about it and giving yourself some clarity and confidence to not flounder and be like, oh, but I really need. No, I'm trying to help you have that confidence to say, no, I'm not going to reach, going to stay strong, take the value, take the good players, even if it's the same position. Keep reinforcing your strengths. Don't be afraid to reinforce your strengths because that opportunity cost isn't just a cost to you. It's also hurting the other players as well. And I think we forget about that. So appreciate you guys for stopping in. Again, hit up. Where can they find you, Alex?
You can find me on Twitter at @LXO_FF. And you can find me at toiletstotitles.com. I'm a writer over there and lead editor. You can find me on the podcast too, Toilets to Titles. We're on Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, and with my guy, Rich, the Frito Bandito down there. Go ahead, Rich.
Yeah, I can't say much more than that. I mean, he's already covered it. So, yeah, we're both at Toilets to Titles. You can follow me on Twitter at rgonzalezrm because I am your neighborhood-friendly Frito Bandito.
All right. Thanks, guys. Hey, look for the article coming out this weekend at fusionffb.com. And the Singularity, which is my fancy name for all my stuff in one draft kit, basically. It's got all my ranks. It's got my projections, both team by team, but also player by player, even a league view. And then also just came out with the ADP beater, which you're familiar, format beater. And that's really ties into this high ground thing because you want to be able to, before the draft start, you want to pick out the hills you want. Maybe you have a couple options and you're going to react, but you want to know just which way the format lends itself to. I mean, just because you pick one doesn't mean that the format actually lends itself to that being a good one. So something like the format beater helps you figure out average positional scoring on your custom scoring. The ADP beater is now in the Singularity. It's the same thing, except it also incorporates the projections and ADP. So it shows you the player that's coming up as quarterback one and how much that quarterback one usually scores, and then who the player ADP says is going to be the quarterback one, and then my projection for that player according to your custom scoring. Not if you're in the Frankenstein, and my custom scoring can't handle that. But it can handle position specific, so like tight end premiums, things like that. It can handle it. And then it compares it to just the overall finish. So a lot of information on that one sheet. And then the draft assistant is coming out this week too, where you can actually put in players into a board. This is going to be awesome for your live drafts. I'm going to take this to Canton to the FF Expo, have it on my computer or even on your tablet or a mobile device because Excel Mobile is free and it can run this thing. So you think, well, it's an Excel spreadsheet. I don't have Excel on my PC. You don't need it. You can get it on the little mobile and it runs smooth. So you'll be able to use this thing anywhere. You put in the players, it's going to show you the top remaining players according to my projections and the top remaining players according to ADP. So you'll be able to make the best possible informed decision. You're not going to miss any players, things like that. Shows you your team, all that good stuff. Not easy making draft rooms, guys, by the way, I found out. But check that out, fusionffb.com. Thanks, you guys, for hanging out with me.
Thanks,
Have a good
Josh.
night. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.